Today we are presenting our final project. Our team is made up of María de los Ángeles Robles Ayala, Paola Guadalupe Salazar Ciari, Nailea Berenice Verdugo Ibarra, Ingrid Balvaneda Verdugo Villavicencio.
In this presentation, I will talk about learning in our inclusive environment class. First, I will explain what inclusion is and why it is important in education. I will also mention the different types of inclusion that help every student feel welcome and support. Then I will talk about learning disabilities and how teachers can understand and support students who have them. In general, this presentation will show how an inclusion environment helps a student learn, participate, and succeed together.
What is inclusion? Inclusion is creating an environment in which all people, regardless of their origin, characters, or abilities, feel respect, evaluate, and can fully participate. It means ensuring that an environment has the same opportunities to thrive and that diversity is recognized and celebrated.
Uh, Now I will talk about the difference about inclusion, exclusion. Inclusion means creating conditions where all people can participate fully in society. It involves giving equal access to opportunities, resources, services, and rights. Inclusion also means removing barriers and making sure that every person is respected, valued, and treated with dignity. It's a positive and intentional process that promotes equality and reduces discrimination. And exclusion means that individuals or groups are prevented from participating fully in society. This can happen when they do not have access to services, opportunities, or rights. Exclusion may result from discrimination, poverty, disability, ethnicity, or other social factors. It often leads to inequality, marginalization, and isolation. Exclusion is a negative process that limits a person's ability to improve their life. Some may difference. Inclusion provides equal access. Exclusion limits access. Inclusion promotes participation and exclusion prevents participation. Inclusion supports dignity and equality. Exclusion creates inequality and isolation. And inclusion is intentional and positive. Exclusion is harmful and often structural.
Okay, so what is an inclusive environment? Inclusive environments are spaces that remove barriers for all people to fully participate and feel valued, regardless of their abilities, origins, or conditions. They are based on the elimination of physical and attitudinal barriers, the adoption of equity and respect policies, and design of accessible spaces and activities from the beginning. Its is to ensure the active participation for all on equal terms.
What is inclusion education? Inclusive education is an educational model that seeks to ensure that a student, regardless of their characteristics or abilities, have access to quality education together and participate fully in learning and in the community.
No se escucha, compañera.
Sorry. What is the UDL? The UDL is an educational framework that seeks to create flexible and accessible learning environments for a student recording that they learn in various ways. The objective is to eliminate barriers to learning and ensure that each student can fully participate and reach their potential. With you, their need for separate adaptations.
Now I will talk about the disabilities. Deaf blindness, also called dual sensory loss or multisensory impairment, a combination of seeing and hearing loss that significantly affects a person's ability to communicate, access information, and move around. Causes: deafblindness can be congenital or acquired. Congenital causes: these occur before or at birth, such as congenital Rubel syndrome, Usher syndrome, Church syndrome, premature or a lack of oxygen at birth. Risk factors: premature, medication and toxins, prenatal infection, genetic syndromes, infection, and trauma.
Okay, autism it's an disability too. It's an spectrum disorder. ASD refers to a neurological and developmental disorder that affects how people interact with others, communicate, learn, and behave. Some causes are well, autism spectrum disorder has no single known cause. Since the condition is complex and symptoms and severity vary, there could be many causes. Both genetics and environment can play a role. Some risk factors: genetic factor, environmental factor, physicopathological factor, immunological factor, perinatal factor, and neurodevelopmental factor.
Developmental delay. Developmental delay refers to when a child doesn't reach developmental milestone, such as those related to walking, talking, thinking, or social skill. The expected as it suggests a lag in one or more areas of a children's developmental when compared to the typical progress of the tapers. Causes: genetics, Down syndrome and thyroid condition, neurological problems, damage to the brain or the organs of the central nervous system, problems during pregnancy, and low birth weight, premature or infection. Risk factors: environmental, genetic, pregnancy, complication of delivery, health and relation.
Emotional disturbed. It is condition in which a person, especially a child, experience emotional on the environment problems that negatively affect their academic and social performance. These include an inability to learn, difficulty for relationship, inappropriate behaviors or feelings, and a generalized mode of unhappiness or depression. Causes. There are many causes that can make a student emotionally disturbed. Some children may have problems at home, like fighting between parents, family separation, or not receiving enough love and attention. The risk factors is biological factors, environmental and social factors, and other factors. For example, hormonal change, mental health condition, and COVID-19.
Hearing impairment. Hearing loss is a decrease or loss of hearing, which can range from mild to profound and affect one or both ears. This condition makes it difficult to perceive sounds and process auditory information, which can affect language development and communication. Causes. There are many causes of hearing impairment. Some children are born with this condition because of problems during pregnancy or birth, such as infection, lack of oxygen, or low birth weight. Risk factors, genetic factors, medication, parental complication, aging, maternal affection, and other factors.
Intellectual disability. It is a developmental condition that manifests itself through significant limitation in intellectual functioning and adaptive skills, including communication, self-care, socialization, and the ability to solve everyday problems. Some causes are intellectual, well, some causes about this intellectual disability. Some children are born with it because of problems during pregnancy, such as infections, poor nutrition, or exposure to harmful substance. Risk factors: Down syndrome, Fragile X syndrome, maternal health and behavior, infections, and birth complications.
Multiple disability is the term for a person with two or more significant similarities impairments, such as intellectual disability combined with blindness. The combination of the disability creates severe educational and daily living needs that cannot be accommodated with addressing only one impairment. Causes. The causes of multiple disability can be complex and varied, and include genetic and chromosomal factors, infections during pregnancy, of after birth complication, hair or spinal cord injuries from accidents, or the developmental of chronic disease. Risk factors: genetic and chromosomal, conditional, prenatal and perinatal issues, physical environment, lack of assistive technology, and socioeconomic status.
Orthopedic disability. It is a physical affection of the musculoskeletal system, bones, joints, muscles, ligaments, and tendons that negatively impacts academic performance and daily functioning. The causes are congenital anomalies, disease, and traumatic injuries. The risk factor is a neuromotor impairments, degenerative diseases, and musculoskeletal disorders.
Other health impairment. Other health impairment is an educational term for a condition that results in limited strength, vitality, or alertness due to chronic or acute health problems, which adversely affects a child's educational performance. Causes: other health impairments can be caused by severity or acute or chronic health problems, including conditions like asthma, diabetes, epilepsy, heart conditions, and attention deficit disorders. Risk factors: asthma, attention deficit disorder or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, diabetes, epilepsy, heart conditions, hemophilia, and leukemia.
Deafness is defined as the complete or partial inability to hear, hearing loss, which can range in severity from mild to profound. The term is often used clinically to describe a significant hearing impairment, where an individual may rely on visual communication such as sign language or auditory technology like cochlear implants. Some causes are aging, exposure to loud noises, infection, such as meningitis or measles, head injuries, and use of certain medications. Risk factors: exposure, medications, age, medical conditions, genetics, and inheritance, and infections.
Traumatic brain injury. TBA is a sudden injury that causes damage to the brain, typical from a blown boom or go hole to the head. Closest injury or a penetrating injury when an object pierces the skull. Causes: leading causes. The most common causes vary by age group, but globally include falls, especially in older adults and your children, motor vehicle crashes. Risk factors: age with the highest risk for the youngest and oldest population, and specific causes like fall, vehicle-related accidents, assaults, and support injuries.
Speech language impairment. A speech or language disorder refers to problems with communicable or related areas, such as oral motor skills. These delays and disorders range from simple sound substitutions to the inability to understand or use language or oral motor skills for speech and feeding. Some causes of speech or language impairments include hearing loss, neurological disorder, brain injury, intellectual disability, drug abuse, impairments such as cleft lip and vocal abuse of misuse. However, the cause is often unknown. Risk factors: the other developmental problems, autism, spectrum disorder, learning disabilities, hearing loss, and damage to the central nervous system, which is called aphasia.
Visual impairments. Visual impairments means that a person's vision cannot be corrected to a normal level. Visual impairment can be due to a loss of visual acuity, where the eyes does not see objects as clearly as before. It can also be due to a loss of visual field, where the eye cannot see as wide an area as usual without moving the eyes or turning the head. some causes, there is a substantial variation in the causes of vision impairment between individual countries according to the availability of eye care services, their affordability, and the education of the population. Risk factors, refractive errors, cataract, diabetic retinopathy, glaucoma, and age-related macular degeneration.
Okay, a specific learning disability. A specific learning disability, SLD, is a disorder that makes it hard for a person to learn basic academic skills such as reading, writing, or math. It is not related to intelligence, but to the way the brain processes information. Common examples are dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyscalculia. Some causes are not always known, but they can be related to different factors. Some children may inherit learning problems from their parents. Risk factors, family history of learning difficulties, premature birth or low birth weight, chronic ear infections that affects hearing and language development, exposure to alcohol, drugs, or toxins during pregnancy, and emotional or psychological problem in early childhood.
Specific learning disabilities. Dyslexia. Dyslexia is a specific and persistent learning disorder of reading and writing that occurs in children who do not have any physical, mental, or social cultural handicap and whose origin seems to derive from an alteration of neurodevelopmental causes. Dyslexia results from individual difference in the parts of the brain that enable reading. It is often hereditary and appears to be linked to certain genes that affect how the brain processes reading and language. Risk factors. Having a family history of dyslexia or learning disability, genetic factors, complications during pregnancy and birth, such as premature or low birth weight, and exposure to toxic substance.
Dysgraphia. Dysgraphia is a learning disorder that affects writing ability both in the motor aspect, letter quality, speed, pencil grip, and in the cognitive aspect, organization of ideas, sponging. Causes. The causes of dysgraphia can be genetic, neurological, psychomotor, and information processing related. Although experts do not always identify a single cause. Risk factor. The risk factor is a genetic factor, family story, neurological factor, difficulties with fine motor skill, conditional, interhemispheric integration, and crossed laterality, and environmental psychological factor, stress, anxiety, and traumatic experience are play a role. It is also associated with other learning difficulties such as ADHD and dyslexia.
Dyscalculia. Dyscalculia is a learning disorder that affects the ability to understand numbers and perform mathematical calculations. It hinders basic numeracy skills, mathematical reasoning, and tasks such as problem solving, and can be even cause math anxiety. Causes. The causes of dyscalculia are not fully understood, but are believed to be primarily due to differences in brain structure and function, including genetics and neuroanatomy. Risk factors. The main risk factors for dyscalculia include genetics, family history, neurological factors, difference in brain structure and function, and environmental and perinatal factors such as low birth weight, prematurity, or exposure to toxic substance during pregnancy.
Auditory processing disorder. Auditory processing disorder, APD, is a condition in which the brain has difficulty processing and interpreting sounds, especially speech, even though the ears are functioning properly. Some causes of auditory processing disorder are often unknown, but it may be related to genetic factors, problems during birth, such as low birth weight or premature birth, recurrent ear infections, head trauma, aching, strokes, lead poisoning, and other neurological disorders such as ADHD or autism. Some risk factors are that contribute to auditory processing disorder include problems during pregnancy or birth, such as prematurity, low birth weight, drug exposure, or lack of oxygen. Recurrent ear infections, head trauma, and neurological diseases such as seizures of meningitis.
Nonverbal learning disability. Nonverbal learning disorder is a neurological condition that affects the understanding of visual and spatial information, organization, and social skill. Also, verbal skills are usually well development. Causes. The exact causes of non-verbal learning disability are not full known, but they are believed to be related to the difference in brain structure and future function. Risk factors. Factors in nonverbal learning disorder include neurological abnormalities, particularly in the risk hemisphere. Genetic factors, prenatal or perinatal complications, such as hypoxias or low birth weight, brain injuries, environmental factors such as lack of stimulation and neurochemical imbalance.
The UDL adapted to developmental delay. Universal Designer for Learning (UDL) adapts to a student with developmental delay by offering flexible ways to present information, let a student respond, and keep the engaged so lessons are clear, predictable, and accessible. Teachers use simple language, visual supports, pictures, and schedules, hands-on materials, modeling, extended time, assisted communication. Um,
Maria, sorry, we can see you.
sorry. And on materials modeling extended time, assistant communication option, task breakdowns, and concise routines to increase understand and participation. UDL implementation in inclusive classroom has been shown to improve access to the curriculum and classroom engagement for learners with intellectual or developmental delays. When teachers combine visual support, scaffolded tasks, technology, or multiple resources, and frequent positive reinforcements. Teacher training and classroom planning using to cast UDL guidelines help translate this principle into effective strategies, presentation, and action, and expressing engagement so that each learning can work at their level and demonstrate learning in different ways.
And now I will talk about key points of Article 3. The point number 2, the guiding principles for state education shall be based on scientific progress and shall fight against ignorance and its effects, servitude, fanaticism, and prejudice. I think it's a wisdom that the state has to truly teaches religion when it comes to education. Honestly, to me, it's something that doesn't really help or bring people together in a community. If anything, it does the opposite. It separates, subtracts, and limits that what students can learn. Science, through is something you can actually prove, and basic or lessons on it means the knowledge students get is solid, well-grounded, and actually true. That way down the road, they'll grow up to be people who can think for themselves, share knowledge, keep learning, and pitch it to make the country better for everyone. The point number 4, all the education provided by the state shall be free of charge. Just like we've got a duty to pitch in for the government also has a duty to pitch in for use the citizens. So the fact that the state funds students' education is totally essential and mandatory. Why? Because that's the right way to use the money folks pay to the government. Plus, it's a killer long-term investment that's only going to benefit the future of the nation.
Point number 10. Higher education is the responsibility of the state, federal, and local authorities shall establish policies that promote inclusion, retention, and continuity in accordance with the law. They shall also facilitate access to this type of education for individuals who meet the requirements established by public institutions. In this point is important because higher education helps people get better jobs and improve their lives. When the government takes education easier to access, more people can study and have a good future. It also helps the country grow and have more prepared citizens. Point number 9. To contribute to the fulfillment of the objectives of this article, the national system for continuous improvement of education is created, which will be coordinated by a decentralized public body with technical, operational, but jittery decision making and management autonomy, with its own legal personality and assets now sectorized. This point is important because it establishes the creation of the national system of for continuous improvement of education, an agency for guaranteeing the quality and equity of the education system in Mexico. Its significance lies in ensuring the agency's autonomy, which allows it to make technical and operational decisions without political interference.
Article number 6. Private individuals may provide educational in all its types and modalities. Under the terms established below, the state shall route and withdraw official recounting of student conduct in private institutions. In the causes of early childhood, preschool, primary, secondary, and teacher training education, private individuals. This point is important because it regulates private education, ensuring that it meets the same quality and barriers as public education.
The next is a Ruby and its relationship to Article 3 and the UDL. The relationship, the Article 3 is, if we tell about Article 3 of the Mexican Constitution, is a state that environment, one moment. Um, It states that environment has the right to education. Now, looking at the video of Ruby's inclusion, which shows how the school Ruby attend adapt to her condition, in this case, Down syndrome. We turn to Article 3, which states that education is compulsory. In Rubica's, it is even more imperative that a school become inclusive and adapted to the needs of a student. As in Ruby's case, Article 3 also stipulates that education must be public, universal, inclusive, secular, and free. Returning to Ruby's case, is crucial that education be inclusive, public, and free because not everyone has the same economic opportunities and that it be secular since no particular belief should be included. Furthermore, going back to Ruby's case, the Constitution states that teach must guide students and are very important in the education process, especially when there are students with a disability in the classroom. In conclusion, where we are that the importance of inclusive classroom in Ruby case is of utmost importance since at the Constitution state in its Article 3 we must comply with say article and citizen and has a school environment guide that there are a special case like Ruby where inclusion is very necessary with classmate, teacher, or administration.
Ruby and UDL. What? Ruby's story helps us understand what real inclusion means, not just being in the same classroom, but truly participating and learning together with everyone. According to UDL, information should be present in many ways so that all students can understand it. For example, show the video with subtitles and clear visuals. Use pictures, charts, or simple text to explain the difference between integration and true inclusion. Share real stories or testimonies about students with disabilities learning successfully in general classroom. How? This part focuses on how students express their understanding. Everyone learns and communicates differently, so the teachers give multiple options to demonstrate learning. For example, the students can create posters or mind maps about what a truly inclusive classroom looks like. They can record a short video or act out a sense showing inclusion and then discuss it. Ruby could use technology, tablet, communication app, or visual supports to share her ideas. The teacher can keep extra time or use assistive tools so Ruby can fully participate in group activities. And finally, why? This part is about motivation and emotional connection to learning. The goal is to help students see that inclusion is a human right and that everyone deserves to belong and learn together. For example, the teacher can start discussions about respect, empathy, and equality. Students can reflect on how they can make their own classroom more inclusive, celebrate Ruby's progress, and contributions to strengthen confidence and motivation.
Okay, now we're gonna talk about the milestones. Milestones by 2 months. Um, in social and emotional milestone, we have calms down when spoken to or pick it up. Look at your face, like we can see at the picture. Seems happy to see you when you walk up to her, and smiles when you talk to when you talk to or smile at her. In the language communication milestone, we have make sounds other than crying and reacts to loud sounds.
Cognitive milestone learning, taking problem solving. Watches you as you move, looks at a toy for several seconds. Moment physical development milestone. Make sounds, understands greeting, holds head or when on to me, opens hands briefly.
One moment, please. Esta parte la voy a cortar, es que estoy batallando porque no se me quita la barrita del... This is milestone by 4 months. In, in the social emotional milestone, looks at you moves or makes sound to get or keep your attention. Smiles on his how to get your attention. Shootless, not yet a full learn when you try to make him laugh. Language communication milestone. Make sounds like who, ha, going. Turns head towards the sound or your voice. Cognitive milestone learning, thinking, problem solving. If hungry opens mouth when he sees breaks or bottle, looks at her has with interest. Movement psychological development milestone. Use his arm to swing at toys. Holds a toy when you put in his hat. Rains hats to mouth.
Milestone by 6 months. Social emotional milestone. Knows familiar people. Loud. Likes to look at self in a mirror. Language communication milestone. Take turns making sounds with you and make equaling noises. And cognitive milestone, learning, thinking, problem solving, puts things in her mouth to explore them, rushes to grab a toy she wants, and a movement, a physical development milestone, pushes up with strained arms when on tummy, rolls from tummy to back, and lands on hands to support herself when sitting.
Okay, milestones by 9 months. Social and emotional milestone. Is shy, clingy, or fearful around strangers. Look when you call her name. Smiles or laugh when you play peekaboo. Language communication milestones make a lot of different sounds like ma 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 and ba ba ba. Lifts arms up to be picked up. Cognitive milestones like learning, thinking, or problem solving. Looks for objects when dropped out of sight, like his spoon or toy. Bangs two things together. And movement, physical development milestones gets to a sitting position by herself, like in the image. Moves things from one hand to her other hand and sits without support.
Milestone by 1 years. Social emotional milestone. Plays games with you like pat a cake. And language communication milestone waves bye bye. Calls a parent mama or dada or another special name. Cognitive milestone learning, taking, problem solving. Put something in a container like a block in a cup. Looks for things he sees you hide like a toy under a blanket. Moment physical developmental milestone. Walks holding or to furniture, pulls up to stand and drinks for a cup without a lid as you hold it.
We can hear you.
Sorry. Milestone by 15 months. Social emotional milestone. Show you an object that likes, she likes. Who suffered or other joy. Class we excited. Language communication milestones. Looks at a familiar object when you name it. Points to ask for something or to get help. Cognitive milestone learning, thinking, problem solving. Tries to use things the right way like a phone, cup, or book. Stakes at less to small objects like blocks. Um, movement, psychology, developmental milestone. Use figures to feed healthy some food. Takes a few steps on its how.
Milestone by 8 months. Social emotional milestone. Points to show you something interesting. Put hands out for you to watch them. Looks at a flip page in a book with you. Language communication milestone. Try to say 3 or more words besides mama or dada. Follows one step direction without any gestures like giving you the toy when you say give it to me. And cognitive milestone learning, thinking, problem solving. Copies you doing chores like sweeping with a broom. Plays with toys in a simple way like pushing a toy car. Movement, movement physical development milestone, feeds himself with his fingers, scribbles, and tries to use a spoon.
Milestones by 2 years. Social and emotional milestones. Notice when others are hurt or upset, like pausing or looking sad when someone is crying. Looks at your face to see how to react in a new situation. And in the language and communication milestone, we have say at least 2 words together, like more milk. Points to at least 2 body parts when you ask him to show you. In the cognitive milestone, we have tries to use switches, knobs, or buttons on a toy. Play with more than one toy at the same time, like putting toy food on a toy plate. And in the movement and physical development milestone, we have kicks a ball, like in the picture, runs, and eats with a spoon.
Milestone by 13 months. Social emotional milestone. Playing next to other children and something plays with them and shows you that we can do by saying, look at me. Follow simple routines with like helping to pick out toys when you say it's clean up time. Language communication milestone. Sounds about 15 words. Says words like me, or we. Cognitive milestone. Learning, thinking, problem solving. Uses things to brain like finding a block to a dog as if it were food. Show simple problem solving skill like standing or a small stall to reach something. And moment physical milestone towards book package on a time when you read to her. Take some clothes of be himself like suit pants or an open jacket. Mm, of the ground with both feet.
Milestone by 3 years. Social emotional milestone. Calms down within 10 minutes after you leave here like a childcare don't have. Notice other children and joins them to play. Language communication milestone. Say first name when asked. Talks will enough for others to understand most of the time. Cognitive milestone learning, thinking, problem solving. Draws a circle when you show him how. Avoids touching hot objects. like a stop when you were here. Movement, psychological development milestone. Use a fork, string items together, like learn beads or macaroni. Puts on some clothes by eating inside, like loose pants or a jacket.
Milestone by 4 years. Social emotional milestone pretends to be something else during play. Teacher, superhero dog. About danger, like not jumping from tall heights at the playground. Likes to be a helper. Language communication milestone. Say sentences with 4 or more words and same some words from a song, story, or nursery rhyme. Cognitive milestone, learning, thinking, problem solving. Names a few colors or items. Tells what comes next in a well now story. And movement, physical development. Milestone, service herself, food or pours water. With adult supervision, catches a large ball most of the time. And on buttons, some buttons.
Milestones by 5 years. Social and emotional milestone follows rules or take turns when playing games with other children, sings, dance, or acts for you. In language and communication, answer simple question about a book or story after you read or tell it to him, and keeps a conversations going with more than 3 back and forth exchanges. And cognitive milestones counts to 10, writes some letters in her names, and physical milestone hops on 1 foot and bottoms some bottoms.
Milestone in the developmental delay. Understanding developmental milestone is crucial because it allows for the early identification of children who are not reaching the expected skill for their age. This enables timely intervention and the provision of necessary support to foster their development. Furthermore, understanding these milestones guides parents, teachers, and professionals in know what to expect at each strike, how to appropriately and stimulate the child, and way to seek special help. Early detection can significantly improve a children's learning, communication, independence, and overall quality of life.
This is my conclusion. Yeah. This is my conclusion, and inclusive education is based on the commitment to ensuring that all students, regardless of their characteristics, needs, or developmental phase, have access to equitable educational opportunities. Inclusive staff play a vital role in creating accessible environments, removing barriers, and promoting pedagogical practice that value diversity. Within this framework, Universal Design of Learning, UDL, becomes a fundamental tool, as it allows for the planning of flexible and adapted lessons that offer multiple ways to teach, learning, and participate, benefiting our students. The various learning disability, as well as specific disability, require specific especially understand and support. However, they do not define students' abilities or potential. With appropriate interventions, resources, and include approach, students can reach their full potential. This approach is supported by Article 3 of the Mexican Constitution, which guarantees the right to, to a quality, free, inclusive, and equality education. Historical case shows hashtag Ruby Reyes highlight the importance of combating discrimination and demonstrate equal access to education transforming lives. Reaffirming the principle of Article 3 itself. Finally, understanding developmental milestone from two months to 5 years allows teachers and families to identify typical process and detect potential needs early on. This knowledge contributes to providing timely support and building environments where our children can grow, learn, and participate fully. Together, these elements reinforce the commitment to an education that respects human dignity, celebrates diversity, and ensures that every child has the opportunity to reach their full potential.
Okay, my conclusion. So, when it comes to inclusive education, the bottom line it's not just a nice to have, it's a total game changer. Sorry. Seriously, we're talking about making sure every single kid, no matter their background or what challenges they might have, gets a fair shot at learning and growing. It's about moving past just putting everyone in the same room. It's about actually designing a school so they fit everyone, not just the average kid. When we do that, everyone wins. Kids learn to be more understanding and empathetic, and they get better at working with all sorts of different people. Ultimately, it's about building a stronger, more accepting society. If we want a world where everyone feels like they belong and can reach their full potential, then inclusive education isn't just important, it's absolutely crucial. It sets up kids for success in a diverse world, and honestly, that's just good for everybody.
In my conclusion, the inclusive environments course helped me understand what inclusion truly means, supported, respect, and able to participate. I learned that an inclusive environment welcomes all children, values their difference, and gives them the to learn in the best way for them. After this, our project allowed me to connect these ideas with real information, with a collected presentation about different disabilities, the ideal system, Article 3, the 19th Code of Ethics, and the developmental milestone for the 30 months to later children. Throughout this work, I learned how these resources guide teachers to understand children better and to create fair, accessible, and meaningful learning experience. Class showed with me that education is not just a wall, but a daily practice that help every child grow and succeed.
In my conclusion, this course depends my understanding of inclusive education and the responsible educators, having creating equitable and support learning environments. By analyzing topics such as learning disability, the UDL framework, Article 3, the NAYC Code of Ethics and Developmental Milestones, I coined a broader perspective on how these elements guide effective educational practice. This experience reinforced the idea that inclusion is not merely an educational approach, but an ongoing professional commitment to find accessible and student success.
And this is all the reference. And thank you so much.